Hey guys, I'm Ava, and today we're going to be taking a look at every Sword and Shield set, and we're going to be looking at some data to analyze really what the recent performance has been, because I think lately, the market behavior has been very, very weird for Pokemon, and of course that is because there was a pandemic, and now after supply has increased so much because demand was so high, products are being printed really heavily even though that demand has declined slightly. And also these were released at the height of Pokemon hype, so people were paying ridiculous prices for them. So today we're going to be looking at these sets and see what your return would be, and I've also added a tab to show you what your return would actually be if you were trying to flip these products after accounting for all of the fees, taxes, and shipping costs that you would have to pay. And I think you guys will see that flipping is really not that great of a strategy, especially when you compare to our last video looking at Sun and Moon products, where you'll see that even just having a product for 2 or 3 years will give you much better returns, and you don't even necessarily have to hold it that long, and I will explain to you why later. So let's get into this right away. So as you guys can see, my spreadsheet has advanced somewhat, and this video actually would have come out a little bit sooner, but I spent hours trying to get this in particular to work. Obviously, this is a ranking of all of the products. However, the cool thing about this is that, as you can see, Darkness Ablaze is number 1 up here, right? 313%. If I change the price, the list automatically updates. Is that not the coolest thing you've ever seen? I feel like it's the coolest thing you've ever seen. I'm a little too proud of this. I like Excel a little too much, but I think this is very, very handy, and this makes it so easy to update this list and see your results quickly. So all this data was pulled from TCGplayer, I think 2 days ago, so that would be March 9th, 2022. And this is including the shipping costs for every product. For packs, I have included cents as well, but for other products, I just went to the nearest dollar because they all ended in 99 cents anyway, and it didn't really move the needle very much. So as you can see, not a lot of products here are showing positive returns. There are, of course, a few outliers. Specifically, Darkness Ablaze's ETB has a 313% return. However, this box was printed very, very limitedly, in part because it was not printed as much in favor of printing other newer products that were in higher demand. For example, things like Champion's Path, Shining Fates, and now it's just a little bit old, so they aren't printing it that much. However, I have heard a rumor that ETB will reprinted, though I don't know if that's true, so please take that with a grain of salt, as you should with all things you read on Reddit. I think I saw that on the Poke Investing subreddit. What you'll also notice is that there is a trend where products that have just released are typically selling for MSRP or above, but at the 3 to 9 month mark is when they start to decrease in price, and I have made notes of all of these things here so that you can read them, but I'm just going to elaborate on them quickly. So you can see that products begin to decrease in price aside from Evolving Skies. Although Evolving Skies did dip around 3 months after it was released, that set is a very remarkable set though, so you can see why it's a bit more expensive than the others. But for Battle Styles and Chilling Reign, these are not bad sets, really. In comparison to things like Brilliant Stars and Evolving Skies, though, they may be slightly lackluster, but all the sets from Pokemon that have come out lately are really, really amazing, so that is why those ones have trended down a bit more. But you'll also notice that as time passes, these products begin to increase and recover in price, and that is because they aren't necessarily being printed as much. Especially right now, Pokemon has mostly been focusing on printing the newest products, and you'll see that by the time we get to Sword and Shield, this set is officially 2 years old, by the way, so it is most likely out of print. I would highly recommend picking up some Sword and Shield, by the way, if you are just looking for something to pick up. The ETB is a good option because it hasn't appreciated as much, but the booster box I think is also a great option. Again, I think I said this last video, but the base sets are always a good option because people looking back are going to remember the base sets and they're going to be nostalgic for those, especially because of the games. So those are usually a solid investment option because if you look back at older generations, a lot of times the pricing differences in sets level out over time and they all end up becoming more expensive. So I would recommend picking that up if you can. And you'll also see Champion's Path has done quite well. This is again a special set and it has been out for a year and a half already, which is actually crazy because I remember when it was coming out. In terms of the special sets here, I think Champion's Path is already quite expensive. You can still buy it and I think you will see a return on it because these special sets always outperform, it seems, which we saw in our last video looking at Sun and Moon products, which I will have linked in the description, by the way, so you can look at that on your own time. Also, guys, if you're enjoying this video, please subscribe to my channel. It would be very, very helpful for me. I'm getting close to 1,000, which is really exciting, and I would love your help getting there. I think Shining Fates right now is going to be your best bet, in particular the ETB. It is going for a very, very reasonable price. On TCGplayer, it is $55. However, I have found it cheaper elsewhere, even as low as $50. So you can get this product for MSRP, which I think is going to be a great value. It was printed a decent amount, however, I think in the long run it is going to be a great product because it is a very good set, and it also has very, very good display ability, so I would recommend the Shining Fates ETB. Out of any of these, Celebrations is of course very collectible because it's the 25th anniversary set, however it is so small and it was printed so much that I have a hard time seeing as significant returns on their regular ETB. So this is not the Pokemon Center ETB that I'm talking about. That is an entirely another beast. If you guys want a whole video about Pokemon Center ETBs, I could make that because I think they're a very, very interesting topic. However, if you are going to buy something from Celebrations, I would say that you should buy the ETB, the Pokemon Center ETB, or the Ultra Premium Collection, because those are definitely going to be your best options. Also, I just want you guys to know, when you're looking at these, I want you guys to be very careful because these are not necessarily going to see the same returns as older sets like Sun and Moon, because Pokemon card collecting has become so much more popular in just the past 2 years. More people are keeping products sealed, so they're just not as rare, so they're not going to become as expensive. That's not me saying that they aren't still solid investments. I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't think they were. You shouldn't go in expecting to see these crazy returns like an Unbroken Bonds ETB. That Darkness Ablaze ETB is a total outlier. However, you know, you might be able to find one in Barnes & Noble. I found them there like quite a few times, which is really nice. And as well, as I said, the printing of these new sets has been very, very high. Things like Fusion Strike, Brilliant Stars, Evolving Skies, Chilling Reign, even Battle Stars were all printed quite a bit. Honestly, I think all of these sets have been printed a lot, so be mindful of that when you're thinking about what you want to buy and whether or not prices are worth it. I would say hold off on Brilliant Stars for now because I do think it'll get cheaper. Sets, no matter how good they are, almost always get cheaper about 3 months after release, and that's because the new set is out, people are hyped about that, and they've moved on from the other one. People will of course come back to it because it is a great set. I really like Brilliant Stars because I like Arceus and I love the character rares. But I think also this is another reminder that it is a good time to buy Cosmic Eclipse because Brilliant Stars is a total throwback to that set. I would recommend that set, especially because it is only getting older. So as I was saying earlier, you don't necessarily have to hold a set for at least 2 years to see that high return. And that is because you can buy a set well after release. You don't have to buy it when it first comes out, right? Just looking at this, something like a Darkness Ablaze booster box, that I would say is a pretty solid option right now. However, I would actually say Vivid Voltage is better. Although Darkness Ablaze does have a Charizard chase card, it is not as good as so many of the other Charizard cards that have come out, but Vivid Voltage has the Rainbow Rare Pikachu, which is just a much better chase card, and it has the amazing rares and stuff, so I think it's a pretty cool set either way. But you can see this set has been out for about 16 months now, and you are still able to get it for about MSRP. You can probably find it cheaper elsewhere than this. So when you buy this product, it has already been out for quite a while. So this is likely only going to be printed if it gets reprinted in the next 8 months, and there's not necessarily a guarantee. In the last video, we talked about how Team Up was never even reprinted, so there is always the potential for Pokemon not to reprint it again. This just means that you've already kind of skipped over those first 16 months. So a year from now, it'll have been out for 2 years and 4 months. 2 years from now, it'll have been out for over 3 years. That is when you're going to start seeing some good returns. So I would recommend this strategy. It is something I have done consistently, and I would very much recommend to you guys. You know, this should say Sword and Shield sets, but out of all of these, I would recommend most to you guys the Sword and Shield ETB, the Brilliant Stars ETB, because it is going for about MSRP. It might get a little cheaper, however, I think that now is a fair time to buy it if you want to. I would probably hold off on the booster box because those tend to get even cheaper than the ETBs do. I would also recommend the Vivid Voltage booster box. I've heard that the ETB for Vivid Voltage might be getting reprinted. Again, that was the same rumor as the Darkness Ablaze one, so take it with a grain of salt. I would also recommend both the Fusion Strike booster box and ETB. You can see how cheap they are, and I think Fusion Strike is a really excellent set. I do think it is better than Chilling Reign and Battle Styles, even though I do like both of those. And I've actually had really good luck with Chilling Reign. It's one of the few sets I've managed to pull alternate arts in. I think Fusion Strike will probably give you your best bang for your buck in regards to these sets. However, again, if time is of the essence to you, you might want to go for these older ones just because, you know, Battle Styles has actually already been out for a year, so you can kind of cut that wait time in half. Again, I would recommend holding much longer than 2 or 3 years. I think, you know, after 5 or 10 years even is really when you start to see those good returns. So again, here we have our average returns. You can see that once again, ETBs are outperforming. It's interesting because this time the ETBs are outperforming the special ETBs. However, that is definitely because of this outlier in Darkness Ablaze. If we set this to be $40, which is its MSRP, that goes down to 29%. So I would not rely on this outlier to mean that ETBs are going to have the best return. Special ETBs are always a great bet. However, keep in mind that these products didn't necessarily release at MSRP. Certain things like Champion's Path were very hard to find at MSRP. It was definitely possible. I myself found them at MSRP, but again, a lot of these came out at the height of when bots were being used, or just it was really hard to find things. And if you weren't actively searching or get lucky and find them in person, it would be difficult to find them. I would also recommend the r/Pokemon TCG deals subreddit for you guys, because that is where I have been able to get a lot of these products at MSRP from. They constantly have really good recommendations. And again, just a reminder, if you want to edit any of this, you can go in and change any of these prices you want, and you can also change what you set the default price to be, because this I think is particularly relevant this time because we are talking about things that didn't necessarily come out at $120. So let's say we're talking about Evolving Skies. You might have bought yours for $140. And you'll see that it's not looking quite as hot now. So you won't necessarily have seen that same return. And it's just something to be mindful of. Because if you paid $70 for your Celebrations ETB, as a lot of people did, you will have actually lost $1. And actually, if we look at this tab, you'll see that you will have lost much more than $1. Again, just a reminder that if you enjoy my spreadsheets that I put so many hours into, I would really love it if you would subscribe. That's all I need. Please. Thank you. So I think this tab is really great because it is going to, again, emphasize that point of why flipping cards is so dangerous. You can see from this list, there are certain things that if you had bought, you would have a positive return, right? So, for example, the Sword and Shield booster box, the Rebel Clash booster box, but again, these are older products. These came out. Rebel Clash was kind of right around the start of quarantine, but a little bit before. Sword and Shield was before that as well. But a lot of these came out when prices were quite high. So you'll see that once you pay these fees, so these are all customizable, by the way. There is the sales tax rate. I did 6.25% because I think that is what it is in Wisconsin. I included your selling fees. It's actually going to be 12.75%, and also your shipping costs. So for packs, I set this to be $3.25. This is assuming you are using a bubble mailer. There is a shipping option for items that cost less than £1 with USPS that does include tracking. So I think that is a very solid shipping option, and it is the most budget friendly, having quick shipping, reliable tracking, and being a fairly safe way to ship items. And we have the ETB/booster box shipping cost. This is $8. This could be anywhere from like $7 to $10. It really depends. If you are mindful when you weigh your products and are careful, it will be somewhere around there. And you can see that you will have lost quite a bit of money with some of these items if you go about doing that. So for example, Brilliant Stars. You know, you bought it for $120, now it's $129, you're like, oh my gosh, I made $9. Well, you actually lost $6.69 if you try and sell it. I have here actually 3 different categories. The first is the pure profit. So this is going to be most applicable if you live in a state with no sales tax and you sell it to someone in person. This is, again, the minority. It is good, though, if you're just trying to keep in mind. However, after taxes is going to be most relevant in most states, and so this is going to be, I bought a product in Wisconsin, and I just want to know how much I have actually gained. And if I sold it to someone in person, that is what I would pay, or if I sold it to someone on a Pokemon group or some other group where they covered the shipping cost, that could be relevant there. But then after fees, and assuming I have to pay shipping costs, so this after fees is particularly important, and this is going to be if you're selling on something like TCGplayer. So the selling fees are currently set for TCGplayer, however they are different for eBay and Mercari. So if you're selling on any of those, you will want to update that, of course, but you'll see that you really start to lose a lot of money there. And it again is very risky to try and flip products especially people who are already paying scalper prices, it's kind of looking for the greater fool mentality, which is you overpay for something, hoping that someone else will overpay even more. I think GameStop is a perfect example of this, where people were just selling for ridiculous prices. But again, you can see that this is clearly not a good strategy if you are trying to sell your products. We saw in the last video how much more you could make if you just hold your products. It's so much better, not just because the return is higher, but it's less work. Do you know how much work it would be trying to sell a product for a $10 profit that you had to first of all invest, $100 in, $120 in. You have to go through the hassle of packing it up, shipping it, listing it, and, taking it to USPS. That is so not worth it. Why would you do that when you could just hold something and sell it for $200 profit, even just 3 or 4 years later? Again, these are going to have slower returns than older products. Your Rebel Clash booster box will never ever be worth as much as a base set booster box or a Wizards of the Coast booster box. It's just not happening. They will never be that rare because everyone is keeping products sealed now, but you can still expect some return. So hopefully this was a helpful video for you guys to see that holding products is really the superior strategy. That's just going to be something I'm going to harp on. So hopefully you guys can get used to it. Please let me know if you guys would like to see a video specifically on Pokemon Center ETBs or other products like Ultra Premium Collections or like things like the Elite Trainer Box Pluses, because I think those are also really interesting products to look at, and I think they would be really fun to discuss because these are, again, high-end products that are pretty niche but often have really good returns, and I think that is something that could definitely be interesting. It would just be a little bit more work because there's so much more variety in there, and it would take a bit more research, and I'd want to try and include like as many things as I possibly could, but I think that would be a very, very fun video to make. So let me know if you guys would be at all interested in that, and thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this video, and give it a like. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.